Hello again, YouTube. I wanted to update you and show you what was new in the garage. So last week, myself and a buddy and another good friend picked up a Monarch 10EE. This is an old machine. The motor is not in, but it does exist. I was told it was recently rebuilt. Best I can tell, this is a DC motor, 180 volt. I'd be curious to see if anybody has any info to fill in. I'll post a picture of the plate there on my Instagram. So it came set up like this with some bonus electronics up top. Looks like they did some kind of a DC conversion. If this is in fact the DC motor, maybe this was to bring it down from maybe something normal like 220 volt, hopefully single phase. I don't anticipate any of this being usable at all, but maybe it'll be some information to work off of. Anyways, here's the lathe. The ways don't look too bad. There's a lot of dings on the top, the cross slide here. We had to do some work to get the cross slide free. Everything's been soaking in WD-40. The guy who had it before was thoughtful enough to put a little bit of Cosmoline all over all the ground surfaces, so that was very thoughtful and nice. And let's see if we can just pull this off here. Can't do it with one hand. We'll mess with that in a minute. But yeah, everything moves really smoothly, really nice. There's not even a whole lot of play. I've got lathes that I use daily at work with more than that. It's a D13 spindle nose like all the 10EEs. So we've got a 5C collet nose that can be adapted to put on here. My dad's got one of those. We need the forward reverse lever. I did have a chance to hang out Sunday with my buddy Robbie, and he has one. I'll link to his video if I can remember to paste it in there. And he has one that's 1965. That lathe is cool because it actually came from the shop that my granddad worked in. He worked in the psychology department for Florida State University. And yes, we have a high-low. Basically, this is the back gear box. And at least everything seems happy with the shifting there. It's not bolted in. I've got some bolts. This whole thing looks a little bit, I don't know, it's hard to say if that's stock or not. The way that it's flame cut, I'm really suspicious that I think somebody fabbed that up. I don't know what the story. The belts are different. The belts are very weird. Somebody had cogged, like, you know, timing belts, run wrong side out. This one's actually normal side in, but there's no teeth on any of the pulleys. These are the kind of pulleys that we were pulling off. Not sure what to think about that running. You can see the marks from running on this pulley here. So that's something interesting to get into and look at what's supposed to be on there, whether we should go to a flat belt, whether we should look at an automotive style multi-V belts and technology that wasn't really being done in 1941. Based on the serial info here, that's what I was able. It's between 1940 and 1941 for the build of this serial. Oh, let's see what else. So yeah, everything seems to be intact. Gearbox at least moves nicely. Nothing's seized up there. After some work, we got the reversing lever here freed up. I'm curious to learn about this lathe. I've never run one of this model. I've run the Hard-Inch a ton, and a lot of import sharp lathes and larger lathes. We have a LeBlond up at work that I like a lot, but don't get to use it very often. So I'm curious to see what we can make out of this. I like the idea that it has higher RPMs. Anything over 1,000 RPM on a manual lathe seems just a little bit exciting. So, man, 2,500 would be. I mean, the TL1 that I'm running actually right now, a job at work, winding it up to 1,500 seems like a lot. You can do a lot of very fussy, small diameter work, and that's what I hope to make sure we have the ways. I'm just going to start by stoning the high spots just really carefully, and let's get the lathe moving and working before I get involved with trying to do any kind of scraping or send anything off for grinding. Let's just get it functional, make sure it's not doing any further damage to itself, but let's figure out what this lathe is all about, and then we'll look at sending it off or having some work done. Here's the taper attachment. Everything seems to be intact. This nut for clamping against the, I guess it's the slide here, what makes the connection, has been sheared off, so it looks like somebody backed that out. under some force. So that's something to either tool up and make. It only unthreads through the bottom, so you have to take this top plate off. Micrometer adjustment doesn't move. I would expect to feel a little bit of backlash. These nuts are loose, so I'll have to get in and look at the worm gear and stuff in there and see. I'll research, maybe this is a lock. I'm not exactly certain. So before we put any kind of force on that, I'll make sure there's not like a handful of rust inside there or something. Yeah, here's the breaker box that was mounted on here. I'm almost certain we'll end up going to something else. So I'll probably pull that off soon, at least so we can get this most loose paint flaked off. But yeah, we have all the doors, the end door, the side door here, and there's no electronics. Like if you look on Robbie's lathe, he's got a ton of old school tubes and analog drive stuff. It's really, really slick. It's pretty cool, but hopefully we can bypass some amount of that, even if there is a little bit of loss of horsepower. The original start-stop for the thing lived here, and that's been blocked off. Looks like the coolant or oil sump has really not been used. There's plugs installed, and I'm just willing to bet those are factory installed. A lot of the kind of work you can do here, you can do with a cup of oil and a chip brush, or just sprays of an oil and do a lot of turning that way. It would be cool to have some coolant on it. So yeah, that's the lathe. These are great. I don't know that much about them. I feel like I know a fair amount about lathes, but this model is completely new to me. The first one I had my hands on was one like this. I did see one at the Keene building on campus. The guys over there in the physics shop have one, and I'm sure I'll be over there to get some reference. But yeah, just wanted you guys to get a shot of the lathe, see what it looked like, see what there was to see, and if you have any ideas or thoughts, things to look out for, things in your garage that are extra that you want to mail me. I've already had a few people chime in, actually, and that's incredibly generous, people to think of me, and that's really nice. I appreciate that. But looking to just learn what we can about the lathe and do some top-notch work with it. And it's a piece of history, man. It's as cool to me as restoring any old car you could ever have. I think it's just completely classy. So that's the update. So take care, guys. Appreciate you taking a look.